I have good news. Today's episode should be a little shorter than yesterday's episode, and hopefully by a lot. So welcome back, Artist Journal, November 5th, 2022, Berlin. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, artist reporter on the scene with this wonderful new painting by Rare Force. Again, turning heads. The excitement remains for me. It is always a personal decision. The excitement remains for me in the NFT space with works like this. Again, this is just a daily occurrence here. This is just another day. You could have a whole section of a newspaper that is like the art section, and I could fill it with interesting works. Even static works, because of course GIFs don't work in a newspaper. I could fill a whole art section. You know, like, this is just another day in the life here. And so here's Rare Force playing with the Boston Dynamics dogs. And you know what's so interesting about this? Like, well, let's look at the details here quickly. Spot hunting, slight overkill. And it's actually doing quite well. 1 ETH bid from Punk7635. That looks like the arty guy, but I'm not sure. Look at this. In spot hunting, slight overkill, I used found British hunting scene based in the 18th century, painted in 1943 by Edith A. Simpkins, and repaint it from the ground up with changes, replacing the traditional hounds with modern-day Boston Dynamic robotic dogs. Again, I continue the dystopian future narrative, but pushing the dialogue from modern day to the Victorian era for its absurdity and levity in the face of potential grim future. Where and when will we find Spot next? Because, of course, Rare Force has tackled Boston Dynamics robot dog before. What I was going to say, though, is, okay, so he digitally repainted it. Awesome. Most people might stop there, but what's so kind of cool about what Rare Force did here is you see this second layer where it looks like there's a bit of motion. There's something going on, like this semi-transparent layer that looks like it was just shifted over like, 100 pixels or whatever the case is. I'm not sure. And just on the, I was going to say the organic figures or like the living figures, but of course we have a bunch of robots just on the moving parts of the painting. So just very interesting, this horse, and even not just reflecting it, 100 pixels away, but then changing so showing movement of sorts. Remember, we were looking at Etienne Jules Marais and also Elby's work yesterday, showing movement. So anyways, and again, it kind of even evokes the futurists on a certain level. But the reason we love this is just because it's so actually beautifully done. It's completely modern and contemporary and just hits the right notes. Very attractive painting. So congratulations to Rare Force, who we have profiled before. Let's see if we can actually, without killing my mic, let's actually see, because we have other works. We'll see if they load up. Yeah, see this? Foul play. So he likes this Boston Dynamics dog thing. And I think it's a great subject matter. He does a lot of great, figurative nudes, and they're very original. And let me tell you, it's not easy to do original nudes. That's why I like that guy whose name I can't remember, who does those pixelated nudes, and they're pretty hard-edged pixels. Go to previous episodes, see if you can find that. Hey, there is Boston Dynamic dogs too there. That looks like a hilarious piece. Let's just bring that up, and then we'll go to our show notes here. Bear on Chain. Sold to, was it one? Yes, sold for 0.75. So again, almost like this 18th century, that last one, of course, I think you'd call that the fox hunt, or, that whole genre, really, of, I guess we'd probably call it 18th century, 19th century painting, often like these British lords going out on the hunt. And here you see almost a similar kind of clothing here. So playing with this kind of 18th century, 19th century, probably repainting works as well. Like, let's say here, it probably was repainted, and he probably just finds works with dogs in it and puts in Boston Dynamics. A very simple substitution, and voila, you have a whole series on your hands that with that idea, You yourself, dear watcher, dear viewer, could do it yourself. I mean, you probably couldn't do it as nicely, depending on how much practice you have. Of course, Rare Force is a very good digital painter, but you see what I'm saying, the power of ideas. So continuing on, we were discussing here yesterday, as well as in previous episodes, how ROM glitch corruption, the Nintendo ROM glitch corruption works, can be taken in a million different directions here. I feel like we're just scratching the surface on this one. Despite all the incredible work that's been done. We got a comment from Mazin, who made this work right here, Starfield Guardians, that we discussed yesterday, which was pretty original, and I thought the comment was quite interesting. I have different variations of ROM corruptions. There are raw, without retouches, narrative, music video, collage, recolored versions, and I was, thinking about that. This one was created by combining raw glitches from the same scene. Okay, so again, I feel like we're just getting started. I could be wrong, but again, I just see, you open this stuff up, these GIFs up in Photoshop, and you have 30 different images there. And maybe I shouldn't give away my ideas, but I mean, again, as we discussed yesterday, I almost titled yesterday's show, it's all about execution. So, people can use ideas, but execution is everything. And you really got to be, everybody has good ideas. Again, I tell my girlfriend this, look around you on the street, everybody has good ideas, but how many are actually going to succeed at that? And it comes down to execution, right? It's all about execution. So anyways, that's top of mind. A nice comment from Vito, who is also a Nintendo Glitch ROM. I think, what is the name? Glitch Arcade. Always a great pleasure to be mentioned, to be honest. And he had these works on Ethereum. To be honest, those ETH glitches have been collecting dust for a while now. Hopefully they'll get some extra attention thanks to this. I hope so too. Again, I have a Foundation account I've never done anything with. It's tempting to put stuff like that up on there. Just to put glitch ROM stuff up on Ethereum. So anyway, give Vito some attention and check out his work. It's profiled in yesterday's show. So thank you for the comment as always, and thank you for watching, Vito, who's been basically a long time listener, but a long time watcher of this show, and I totally appreciate it. And a long time in this NFT space can be like 4 days, where people were saying, "Oh, the show's back on," as if it's a big comeback after I take 4 days off. I think it was 4 days, whatever it was, maybe 5. Anyways, thank you everyone for the awesome comments. And Dan weighed in. Now, we're going to look at Dan's new work here, but remember the ASCII works that we were discussing yesterday, the ASCII Picasso and everything. So, hi, Adrian. Exactly for my new ASCII works, I'm still experimenting and studying everything well. I use software online and so interesting. I'm discovering other more and more interesting methods. Once I get the result that interests me after several tests, changes, and uses, I go to make changes manually where I find it necessary. So he's not simply putting it into some sort of ASCII engine thing. He is making adjustments. Thanks as always, happy face. So we were wondering that because there was no sales, and now I think they're all sold out, actually. He lowered the price and burned a few, sent me one generously. Thank you, Dan. I totally appreciate that because I do love that work. Let's just look. Can you still get it? It is sold out. He reduced it to now, edition of 5 is pretty collectible. So look at that. So there are manual changes on this. Okay, so there is actually quite a bit of process, as I would expect with Dan. So thank you for chiming in, Dan. Again, one of my favorite parts about this entire program is the fact that the artists are watching it. I mean, as I always say, the people who watch this program are the people who are in this program, and I couldn't be happier. As I say, for artists, by artists. Continuing on, so Dan has a new one, Pokemon, first generation. So the experimentation continues. This time, it looks like the ASCII works that are not solid blocks are now in black. Let me just look. We brought up that Picasso one. Is that still open? Yeah, you see here. So these are in color. So you see he's experimenting. And this is why it's so fun to do this daily journal, or quasi-daily journal, because we can see the evolution of artists in real time, basically. I mean, he'll probably make another work today or post another work which was made, in the last 24 hours. And it's just a testament to the speed of the digital art space. I mean, we're going at lightning speed here. It's easy to forget. And another important thing, and we have a whole bunch of new viewers, I think, because the views are going up pretty dramatically from 100 to 150 yesterday in the last 24 hours. Another thing that I wanted to mention, we're moving at fast pace. Sorry, guys, I forgot my train of thought. Let's continue on. Oh, I remember. Hallelujah. We are consuming as well a huge amount of work on a daily basis, and it's easy to forget that. Okay, we're consuming hundreds of new images, judging them, in our head, we're being critical, we're looking at the process. Our whole culture here in this digital art scene is moving at lightning speed. And it's kind of easy to not notice that because we're so neck deep in this space. So continuing on, Louis Osborne has a new auction for a one-of-one. In a sense, kind of went for a little less than he's probably hoping. 245. I mean, it's a very nice price. 245 Tezos, which is $345. The previous ones went for around 600, 670, I think, somewhere around there. So deals still to be had out there for Louis Osborne one-of-ones if you're on top of things. So that was interesting. Was there a bidding war? It's kind of hard to see because... Yeah, there was, because you see this person with E at the back of their name. They bid from 180. Yeah, these guys wanted it. And finally, these two wanted it, and finally it sold to this guy. So you still would have had to enter a bidding war. You wouldn't have got it for any less, and you probably would have paid a lot more. This person was probably ready to spend a lot of money. So maybe he got lucky. Limbo, by the way, Limbo has Twitter Spaces. And I was in it yesterday just listening, and it was really good. So Limbo is a great artist. He can curate, and he can put on a great Twitter space. So isn't that interesting? So props to Limbo. And he just put out this great work here. Again, I just become more and more of a fan of his work, and it took me a while to kind of understand Limbo's work. But now that I do, I absolutely love it. So I picked this up. I had to pick it up on secondary because it sold out right away. It went for $5, a very nice price, like in the sense of very, from the collector's point of view, a great price, and fairly low edition of 21. And yeah, and then started selling on secondary. I had to pay 17. And this is part of the Melancholy Dungeon collection, illustration inspired by the first level of the Melancholy Dungeon Super Nintendo game, a game that never existed, and that is the key part there. So super duper cool. I love the signature there too. So a very nice work by Limbo. And moving on, Kurt Hustle Collective, one of my favorite artists on the entire platform. He has a work that he released with the Drank DAO. And that is, of course, Purple Drank's DAO. You got to own a DAO token. And you can find that out by just doing a little bit of research here. So everybody that has that token, which around was like 35 Tezos, I believe, on secondary a few weeks ago, are getting all these for free. Because I was like, why don't I have one of these? But then I realized this is for the Purple Drank DAO. And so anyways, really cool portrait, okay? And we were talking about portraiture. It can be a very lucrative business, okay? So, heads up, Kurt Hustle Collective, a very nice portrait. Would you like your portrait done by Kurt Hustle Collective? I think so. So just another interesting little business. We were looking at that with Haiti and his ASCII, PETSCII filter kind of works. Another work by Uxine that we just had to profile. Again, I missed this. Enjoy the Struggle, 666 declined. So again, very modern machinery mixed with this almost very dark skeleton with the great colors, the great treatment, like his great brushes. I think he's in Procreate, but it's almost like he has his own. He has brilliant brushes, Uxine. And so, you know what else I noticed? The lettering on here is beautifully done. It's like perfectly done. Enjoy the struggle, $6.66, endless shopping spree. You got to buy it now for 28 Tezos, edition of 13. And so a super duper cool work again from Uxine. And continuing on, Françoise Gamma. And thanks for Uxine put out a nice comment yesterday too. Again, it's thrilling. Again, you couldn't ask for anything more if you put a show like this together than for the artists themselves to watch and comment on it. So that's huge. Françoise Gamma, Thread Feed 3. So not sure what the title is about. A pretty interesting work. Looks like a newer kind of work for him. So he does a lot of variations, or her. I'm not sure if it's Françoise. It could be a she. I don't know any details on Françoise Gamma. Buy for $34.90. That is not the listing price. So the listing price was only $3, and it sold out right away. And how long did it take? Yeah, it took about 2 or 3 hours. So now you got to pay 10x for this Françoise Gamma. Pretty cool piece. It all kind of feels like museum work. And Byte by Bit just minted something this morning here in Berlin, my morning, and I thought it was another great piece. I picked it up. It's only a Tezos. A very heartwarming beginning to the day. A heartwarming message from Byte by Bit, who is using retro software. So very cool. Buy for a Tezos. Maybe send it to your Valentine on Valentine's Day. There's an idea for you. I Love You, animation made by 1988 Fantavision by Byte by Bit, who I continue to be a big fan of. So great work there. So the bento boxes by Michael Micasso and Ice Rain have been released. So here they are. They're actually selling for a lot of money as well. So these are, I guess you'd call them generative works. It's on FX Hash, XYZ. So it's just very interesting to see what they did here. I think a really just interesting experiment in pixel art. And again, with it, it's totally recognizably Michael Micasso there too, or mech.txt, and on you can go. So what is the floor here? Oh, you can get one for 4 Tezos. Let's just look. So this is how you look at the floor. And of course, the floor are the lowest prices for those that are wondering. So here you go. So you can start to pick up some works here. Let's look at what's most expensive too, and then we will move on. Yeah, look at that. The more complex is more expensive. Yeah, that is hilarious. So that is 69, 30, 30. That's funny. How value is attributed, a small lesson in how we attribute value to artworks, isn't it? It's just like size. You know, in the physical contemporary art world, size is, you charge more the bigger the work is. You know, does that make sense? I'm not sure. So new work by Ellie Lowe, buy for $270 on secondary. I always like how Ellie Lowe sells their work for so cheap, like 0.90. Let's see if this works. So Ellie Lowe, just turning heads here as usual. So let's stop that. So just a really interesting work. Tempting to pick that up. I mean, still cheap at two Tezos, 70 cents. And again, playing with the trash theme. It's really interesting, I find, how Ellie Lowe puts themselves in the trash category because they don't need to, but they choose to. And so I think that's just very, very interesting and really a testament to that whole trash theme that Robness V2, I believe, is the pioneer of. Continuing on, an interesting work by Ed Marola, the ever-prolific Ed Merola, The Masters of Tego Dago, from the collection Merola's Art Shop. So this is a static work. Kind of looks like a planet. And yeah, I don't know what more to say about it. With a lot of abstraction, a lot of work in here. Again, like, as I always say, if Ed Merola didn't make it, nobody would have made it. You got to love artists who are so individual, who are so unique. And so this is an edition of 1. Let's just see what happened here. Sold for $15. So if you're looking for one-of-one art cheap, I do recommend Ed Merola's page. I've picked up a couple myself, and I love them. I truly love those works. Continuing on, Popple has a new one from the Pixel Ankton series, Cosmic Drifters. This one is Balanus Cirripedia. So I think Popple might have studied like biology or something. Pixel Ankton, Nauplius larva of Balanus barnacle. You know what this is kind of like? So Popple kind of does science fiction, right? In a lot of his work. And but it's not like, but here the emphasis is on science and not necessarily, UFOs and, aliens and, it's more emphasis on science. Always back to Ballard. He was a huge fan of science fiction, but for him, the emphasis was on science, the novelist J.G. Ballard. And, the language and the iconography of science and technology, and that's how he considered himself a science fiction author, which he considered the true, authentic literature of the 20th century by virtue of the fact that its main subject matter was science and technology. So interesting. So, I kind of see that when I see here, and again, the pixel work with the sci-fi, but emphasis again on science. So, and I love all these little diagrams and everything, and here you see the work. I want to call it bitmap style, Pixel Ankton. I love how he changes the colors. Again, this whole series could be screen printed. I highly recommend that. And he could just change the color of the paper as we commented on yesterday. 5 for $6, still available. 13 still available. I guess 12 have sold, and Limbo just picked one up, so you might want to hurry. Continuing on, Balaclava Meeting, an interesting work by Geek. And what I particularly liked about this, you can probably guess, is this Henri Matisse in the background, which actually looks like it's done by Morlacos, because it's got Morlacos. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I need to make this bigger. Let's see if we can make it bigger. Yeah, okay, we made it bigger. There is Morlacos' Ladder in the Sky, so almost a homage to Morlacos there. And so, yeah, so it kind of just brings it all back home here. It just adds, like, sometimes it's just a small little detail in a work that can totally transform it and make it exciting. So Balaclava Meeting, we're watching the TV in the Geek House, buy for a Tezos. I'm just curious what happened here. So heads up, Morlacos, you are in a geek work. Continuing on, Meta Minta. Who is Minta? Who else can I be? I'm attesting that me is me. So yeah, so how has this not been done yet by Minta? Another meta work by our great meta artist, Minta. So of course, this is when you get a Tezos profile. I am attesting this Twitter handle, Minta Artist, is linked to the Tezos account. So this is a screenshot of her attestation, of her tweet. So there we go. Pick up for a Tezos 80. Is this so? These are going. So one has sold, so you can still get them. And sometimes Minta burns quickly, so get them while you can. Now we've looked at Grigala's work before. I believe he's the guy that is putting one work per day out. So, and we weren't calling it digital expressionism. That was someone else's term, but we were referencing Basquiat as being like a neo-expressionist, and we were starting to categorize some of these kind of works. And, it's almost it's tempting to categorize it for the sake of analysis under this kind of, broad category called neo-expressionism, but, with digital painting here. So good morning, friends. A very attractive work. Continuing on, and this is a piece I missed from this week. Okay, Board Me Social Club. You asked me if I have if I have a God complex. Let me tell you something. I am God. Okay. So Apocalypse Now, save the planet, kill yourself. So there seems to be some messaging going in here. There's a lot going on here. Let's just expand this. Beautifully rendered. Frankly, it's just an interesting narrative painting that's going on here. This looks like some sort of wrestling mask. And some alcohol. So just kind of, the walls are different colors, the purple couch, almost the retro phone at this point, especially with that cord that is hanging off. So Board Me Social Club continues to just kind of turn the head a little bit. Very interesting. Buy for 15 from Greco. It was only 2 Tezos on the primary, so nice mint price from Board Me Social Club. Rustic Digital Art also put out a new one called Pardon, and this features a lot of people. Mikey Wilson, Modem 3, Los Marlacos, Rat Cloaksy, The Myth. So here you can see Rat Cloaksy, here you can see The Myth, and you can go through the whole crew here. So Pardon, I think is how we'd pronounce that, maybe Pardon. This kind of looks like, I want to call it like Ozymandias. There's a broken statue here, which could mean a lot of different things. Maybe it's referencing when all those statues were broken a couple of years ago, I want to say. All those kind of Civil War statues. Because look, this almost looks like a Civil War uniform. Let's see if we have any details here. We don't. Fallen statue of Rustic Digital Art, but maybe that's him. So who knows? This looks like what you'd call, I believe, an arcade with all these arches. And almost like a Roman piazza, remember? So this has been finished, it has been minted, and is available on primary for 15 Tezos. And Rustic Digital Art's work tends to go up, generally. Some of these paintings, look, you got to pay $150, not taking the offer. This one's $50, not taking the offer, $15. So anyways, this looks like a very promising work here. Continuing on, look at this. I can't remember where I saw this, if it was Twitter or maybe it was even the object homepage. I don't remember. I think it was Twitter. But this was Matias Moreno, buy for 35. Is that primary? No, that's secondary. Von Doyle has one for sale for 66. So how much was the mint price on this? Only 5. And this is interesting. There's a few things going on here. So first, let's just look. So Ovid's Metamorphoses, Roman writer. I don't think you'd call it an epic, but a catalog of tales. One of the main sources of a lot of myths is actually Ovid's Metamorphoses. Not because he wrote them, but because that's the only source we have for some of these myths. Written in 8 AD, he was exiled out of Rome, actually, by Augustus. And he never actually got in, probably for his erotic love poetry and how to seduce. And Augustus was very kind of, what's the word? Not prudish, but he was very much a law and order kind of guy. So we might call him fairly conservative. So according to Ovid's Metamorphoses, the Oracle of Delphi told the Phoenician prince Cadmus to follow a cow and build a city at the first place it decided to lie down. The cow collapsed at the future site of Thebes. The companions of Cadmus sent out to fetch water disturbed a dragon, a son of Ares, the god of war, who was guarding a well. The dragon emerged from its cave and savagely killed the men. To this observation should be added the gruesome immediacy of the unequal struggle between the dragon and Cadmus's men. Okay, so yeah, I actually just read this like a few months ago. Finally, I read Ovid's Metamorphoses. I didn't like the translation, so it took me forever. Anyways, continuing on. This is important here. The violence of the narrative is portrayed in gruesome detail in the foreground and continues in the background where Cadmus can be glimpsed fighting the beast. In revenge, Cadmus slayed the dragon. So this is why I read all this. So you can see in the back here, Cadmus fighting the dragon. But here the dragon is again. So you know what this is called in Italian Renaissance painting? I believe we touched on this on a very early episode. I believe the term is simultaneous narrative, where you have more than one narrative going on in the same painting. It's kind of like the pre-comic book, so this is like probably late. This is probably earlier, and Bitcoin's raining down the gold. And this is probably later when Cadmus finally kills the dragon by piercing it through the mouth. So very gruesome, but a very powerful work. So anyways, a little Greek mythology here via our Roman writer Ovid, who Shakespeare loved. There's a little detail for you. And he's kind of well known, Ovid, for his just very kind of colorful poetry is the wrong word. It's like very just like visceral, like sensational, like he was, people loved his poetry. Anyways, continuing on, here is another Greek poet as we go into AI here, or Greek myth, Ariadne. And this also references Theseus. This is by Red Rum, and he has a new work on super rare. Let's just read this, then we'll look at the work. Like Ariadne's thread that saved Theseus from the labyrinth, the same thread binds us today and leads us to eternity. So this is the work. So I assume AI, which is kind of Red Rum's calling card right now, pretty impressive. Okay, like after, again, playing with all these tools, it takes a lot of skill to get these prompts right and to upload stuff. What was I calling? It's almost like a kind of visual or even conceptual sculpture. Like you have your initial thing and then you go in again and you're kind of sculpting it. You're kind of going more of this, less of that. So again, I encourage everybody to use the tools. I'm probably late to the party. You've probably most of you have used them. He accepted an offer for 1.5 ETH. So AI art continues to be super hot. Okay. It's a pretty nice price. Let's just look at if this is the only work he has up here, because I know he's kind of new to super rare. That is his only work here. So pretty nice beginning for Red Rum. A cool $2,400 US. ETH's getting more expensive these days. So continuing on the AI front, Refik Anadol. This was retweeted by ClownVamp. So this person, Refik Anadol, seems to have a show at MoMA. I'm deeply honored and excited to announce our exhibition, Unsupervised, opening on the 19th of November at MoMA. It's a dream of many artists to have the opportunity to imagine, practice, and exhibit for such an important institution that supports the creativity of humanity. So it looks like, and I'm going to kill the music here, it looks like a AI artist, from what I understand. So this seems to be somewhat of a preview. Remember how I was just talking yesterday? I'd love to see a work on just like floor to ceiling on a wall at MoMA. That work by, I'm going to get her name wrong, Uvala Dulal, who opened yesterday's show. Well, this is kind of what I had in mind, and here we are. So things are moving very quickly in the NFT world. So continuing on. This is another just little tidbit that I thought we should pay attention to. So Carson Catry put out a tweet, experiments with stable diffusion to texture 3D models fully automatically in Blender. So Blender, from my understanding, is a 3D rendering tool. Like basically you can create objects. I think that's how you get a lot of these turning, I think that's how a lot of people get, a keyboard or a computer that's going in a circle. I think it's Blender. I've never used it, but interestingly, it looks like there's a plugin or something where you can put stable diffusion, AI software, into Blender. And here they're using it to create textures. Just enter a text prompt, hit a button, and it wraps your model in a texture. So experiments with using stable diffusion to texture 3D models fully automatically in Blender. So things are getting pretty wild out there on the tech AI front. Continuing on, we have a new work by Ilya Shkipin. And again, this is a AI work that has been combined with painting, with digital painting on top. And I thought just a really interesting work. Look at this interesting texture here. And again, I continue to be fascinated by this combination of AI and digital painting, and Ilya Shipkin does it very, very well. One of one at auction for 100 Tezos, and someone has put on a bid here. So let's just see. 14 hours to go. So, and the minimum bid was 100 Tezos. So someone has met the minimum bid. Pretty nice work. Continuing on. We're almost done. So here we're hitting physical works as NFTs, one of our favorite guys, Walk. And again, it's sort of like Dan Control. You know, spray paint was never my favorite tool, just like the gradient tool on Photoshop is not my favorite tool, but these guys are totally making it work. Okay, and look at this. So Diego, spray on paper, 50 by 62, starting at 0.35 ETH reserve. So this is on Foundation, and this is also what I want to highlight. So Diego Maradona, of course, the physical artwork will be shipped to the collector. And if I'm a gallery and I'm seeing this start to happen more and more, I do start to get concerned, because this kind of should be how it works, if you ask me. The only risk, the only drawback is, you could argue, the security for the collector. Of course, when we buy a digital art piece online, the blockchain basically secures everything, so we know we're going to get that piece when we give the money. That is the only thing. But I mean, Walk has a reputation to protect, and so does everybody who is on the platform. So I assume once you kind of have enough of a, quote, reputation, why can't you sell digital or physical work via digital means? And then, you know, people are going to assume that, you know, Walk is going to send Diego to them. And I'm sure he would, right? So, you know, so available for 0.35 ETH, and maybe, hopefully this doesn't kill anything here, right at the end. Let's just take a look here. So you can get a physical work, and Walk was experimenting with eBay as well. So anyways, I think this is a fascinating thing. We saw it with Gabby Walter as well, who sold his Mona Lisa painting via digital marketplaces. Interesting. So with that, my friends, I have another work by Walk I'm going to show you of Leonardo's self-portrait as we exit out of here. Thank you once again for joining me. Until next time, take care.